Hi, my name is Judith Coles, and I'm from hisunmeasuredgrace.com, where I inspire and encourage you to to embrace grace and perfection and draw closer to Jesus. And I just wanted to explain to you and talk to you today about what you can do when you're worn out and weary from just being weary and worn out from just life as a mom and worried about the physical and um, the spiritual safety of your children. That can really get to us. And as a young mom, I used to worry that my kids would fall from something, or um, that they'd hurt themselves, cut themselves, and just things like that. You can, like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. And then as they get older, you get more and more concerned about their spiritual safety, and that's more abstract. And they could be doing well, and you're not sure because you can't tell the inside. And sometimes you don't know for many years how that's going to turn out. And I just want, first of all, for you to know that you are precious and you are loved by God, and also by me, because I love my readers and I love the people who come to my page. And I just want to encourage you in any way I can. And if at anything, it will be out of the things that I've learned and the struggles and the trials that I've had in raising my kids, and just in life. Life just has problems. So I have a verse, or something that I was looking up, because I started out with one verse and ended up with this one today. And then I just wanted to tell you about it. And so it's from Daniel chapter 10, and it's 10:19, and it says, and he said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be to you, be strong. Yes, be strong. And so often when something happened with my kids, I could feel the strength just leaving me, and it just would feel like it could just, like, I could actually feel it just totally leaving my body. And this chapter is so neat because it's talking about Daniel having a vision before God, and then, or having a vision, and then this messenger comes. And I don't totally understand it because Daniel gets kind of deep, and I'm not going to go deep. I just want to pull from here something that spoke to my heart of what the messenger kept telling Daniel. And in a way, it's also, he's telling me or you, so that if this can speak to you, that would be great. So first of all, how can you be strong? How can you have courage? Because sometimes as a mom, we look ahead to the future and it's like scary. And um, first of all, there were other men with, or people with Daniel when he had this vision, and they weren't seeing the vision. And they ran off totally terrified. And so Daniel was left alone. And I want to encourage you, don't flee in terror from the situation that you're facing with your children. And it can be even with your children as adults, because many of us, our children are adults now, and we can be scared off and go the easiest route with our little children or our teenagers and just let them do whatever. Or we can, as adults, when they're adults, naturally we can't be as like our finger in their lives like we can, but we can pray. And don't run and not pray in your fear. So the vision terrorized Daniel as well. And he just, like, his strength left him. And he, what he did, um, the messenger came to him, he was so terrorized that he fainted. He fainted, and he lay on the ground with his face on the ground. And I love verses that have fainted in them, and I love paying attention when it says in the Bible something about fainting, because I don't actually physically faint, but inside I feel like I'm fainting with the situations that life brings me. And have you ever gotten in a position where you laid on the floor and and in that position. I haven't. I should. I mean, you know, I've laid on the floor, but as part of your quiet time, have you ever done that? Because I think I'm going to try it, because what it is that it's a very humbling way to position to be in and before God when you're praying. And when Daniel was down on the ground like this, the messenger, maybe it was an angel. I'm not getting into theological thing to decide what the angel was, whether it was Jesus or an angel. I don't know, because that's not the purpose of what I'm talking about. But he touched Daniel, and he helps him to stand up, if I'm understanding it right. He lifts him up. And the messenger tells Daniel that he is precious to God, and he tells him to listen. So I'm telling you that you are precious to God also. If the Bible tells this through the messenger to Daniel, it was also speaking to me, and I'm sure to you the same way. You are precious. And we so often, when we're dealing with our kids, we feel like a failure, a total failure, and we forget that we're precious to God, and he can use us in that situation, whatever it is. And again, the messenger says to Daniel, you are precious. Don't don't be afraid, because Daniel is so scared. He's like shaking. And he says to Daniel, because Daniel's been, you know, we know Daniel as a man of prayer. He's the guy that opened up the windows of his house and prayed, even though he was told not to pray and that he wasn't allowed to. He still prayed. And he would make it so public that he would open up his windows and pray facing the windows facing outside of the house. And so he tells Daniel, the messenger tells him that he was aware that Daniel was praying for understanding and praying that he would be humble and humble himself to God. That was his prayer, that those two things, that he would have understanding and be humble. And too often, our prayers are taken up with like praying for our finances and praying that we can have this or praying that we can have that. And instead, Daniel was praying for the intangible. He was praying for his understanding before God and his that he would be humble. My notes. That's why I don't get off track, you know. And what Daniel ended up saying is something like this: how can someone like me, your servant, talk to you, my Lord? My strength is gone and I can hardly breathe. Have you ever been in that situation where you are so overcome with your issues and problems with your kids, and you just don't know what way to go and what to do? And the messenger, again, I think this is the third time the messenger is telling him something like this. Oh man, greatly loved. He says, fear not, peace be with you, be strong and of good courage. It's the same thing that Josh was told earlier in the Bible, to not to be afraid, to be strong and to not be afraid. Over and over again, somebody in the Bible is told this, to not be afraid, to be strong. And that's what I'm telling you. And Daniel says something like this to him. He says, let my Lord speak, or let the messenger speak to him, for you have strengthened me. Okay, so what's the application? I don't know your circumstances. I have no idea unless you tell me in the comments, and then how public is that, you know? So you're going to guard what you say in the comments. But there's something that's causing Daniel and maybe causing you to be fearful. I know I have been there many times in my life. And the message to Daniel is to turn to God in prayer and to not be afraid, not to be fearful. And that's my message to you. My thought to you is, don't be fearful. Get on your knees and pray and ask God to help you have understanding with the problem you have, or having, like with your children, maybe with your husband, whatever it is, and to be humble. You have to humble your heart, because often there's things in us that need to change. I don't know how many times with my husband, problems with my husband, problems with my children, I discovered it was like I needed to change. And my prayer became Lord, change me. And remember that you're very precious to God, and have courage to change you so that God can change the situation, and be strong in the Lord. And that's all I have for you today. And my name is Judith Coles, and I'm from hisimmeasuredgrace.com, where I blog for you. So have a wonderfully blessed day. Bye.